Welcome to the AMA. I'm here with Master Sergeant Wilcox and Master Sergeant Lucio. We'll just go right around the room. But do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your?
Absolutely. So I'm Master Sergeant Lucio, currently working out of USAFE staff at Ramstein, Germany. Some of my role, I guess what my role entails is overseeing the fuels war planning for USAFE AOR. Planning it with equipment, personnel, and just meeting requirements from our customers, usually being the warfighter or tanker aircraft in the AOR.
I'm Master Sergeant Wilcox. I'm out of USAFE over at the A4 staff. I'm currently the KC-135 Weapon System Manager. I help liaison between AMC and the 135s and USAFE for anywhere between PDM mods, inputs, schedule maintenance, and all.
Sir, I apologize I didn't introduce you.
No worries. I'm Pedro Mendes. I'm a contracting officer by trade. I'm a Spark Cell lead, and I'm here as a coach for the 2025 Aether Sprint this time.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Do you mind? We'll just keep kind of going in this order. You mind telling us in the audience a little bit about your career in the Air Force and kind of what led you to your current role?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a 2F fuels guy. So I've been a little bit in the States. I spent a few years at Whiteman, Missouri. And then from that, I took off overseas at Ramstein, working at the flight there, transitioned over to Korea, Italy, and now back to Ramstein as a staff, working at the staff. I would say something that led me into this position or this career was basically supervisors just checking up on me throughout my career, seeing how I'm doing. And they suggested, that I come to the staff and share my experience with the rest of the community so we can make the 2F community a little bit better. And so far we've done a number of, I should say, tasks, and I accomplished quite a bit during my past year at the staff. I work with a great team and make this team a lot better going forward.
2 Alpha 5 by trade, crew chief. I bounced around on multiple airframes, started off on AWACS, went to 135s, did a little time on B-52s. Now I'm up at the staff level. It was a great developmental role for me to take. Saw the opportunity, so I jumped on it.
Yeah, and me, it's not glamorous. It was a job opening that it's within my academic progress, so I took it and I love it.
It's awesome. Great. Well, we can talk a little bit about, I guess, why you're here at the Tesseract office and why you're here in DC. Can you just tell us a little bit about the TAFAS project? And then I guess kind of what you're doing here for the Aether Sprint BYOA.
Right, absolutely. So the TAFAS, which is the tanker aircraft fuel additization system. So this was born, or I guess created from I wouldn't necessarily say a requirement, a fixed requirement yet, but we saw some LIMFACs during one of our exercises that we previously held where we want to position aircraft in certain locations, but we were limited by the availability of JP8 fuel, which is the fuel that our warfighters use. So in order to satisfy this requirement, we started thinking, how could we make this easier instead of having to use intensive UTC packages that require time and personnel to move, not to mention money from one location to the other, trying to follow the maneuver of these aircrafts. So from that, we came up with this idea of having an onboard additive injector on tanker aircraft, such as KC-135s and potentially KC-46s. So the idea would be if you mount this onboard fixed onto the system, the aircraft would be able to land anywhere worldwide, any commercial site that does not have JP8, and then it could, when it's issuing that fuel back out to the warfighter, it could be blending it on board as it's issuing to the aircraft, meeting that JP8 specification. So through our eyes, that solves a problem set that we've noticed. Now we're hoping that it picks up traction and it gets looked at, so we can meet this and meet deployment capabilities a lot faster rather than traditionally moving UTCs where it can take 72 hours, if not longer, just to get packages and personnel on location.
Awesome.
No, he pretty much summed it up. It's just to extend our reach. It really backs the ACE concept that we've been going after.
Copy that. Do you want to hit a little bit on kind of what we've been doing the past couple days here with the Build Your Own Adventure course, and what are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, no, we've been with this project. It's a little different because it's a theory right now. But yeah, the course it's been really helpful. It's helping us think outside of the box to try to figure out who do we need to poke to get this project going. Gives us more of a leverage tool to hopefully sell this and see a finished product in some future.
Right, absolutely. And I guess when we initially thought of this, you know, we as a fuels guy, I thought, well, maybe the maintenance side of the house, you know, they could fast track this somehow. But we're coming to find out through the Boya this week is that you know, there's some more players that we need to identify and get involved, so they can see that there's an actual true requirement for this versus me just saying, hey, this is a quick solution to this. But hopefully we can identify these key players, pitch it to them so we can start getting some data, some data from their end that would drive the requirement that I see, and then just satisfy everybody else's requirement as well. So a lot of digging for some answers that currently we don't have, but it definitely gives us a way forward to try to get some stakeholder buy-in and find out who the responsible owners are in a sense, that could help facilitate this.
Copy that. Mr. Mendes, you want to talk a little bit about your role on the team here?
So my role is basically get them out of their technical backgrounds, their technical idea, and move into almost the elevator pitch mode. So when you will be talking to leadership or to other people, this program makes you ask questions, makes you really dive deep into your idea. So when you're in a position that you can talk to other people, that you're more informed, so they don't ask you a question. You say, oh, that's a good question. Now, we've been through that with the program. It makes you really think, makes you get alternatives. And just the interaction we have with other team people or other players in the ecosystem gives you a better how people see your project and how you can better answer their questions.
Copy that. Yeah, perfect. And that's kind of really our intent, right? BYOA you can into your idea, whatever stage it is, you know, in the process. Like we talked about a little bit, your project's kind of still in the ideation phase, right? Trying to really flesh out what that looks like. And some of the teams here have you know, things in hand, right? Walking around with a bag of their 3D printing project, and they're handing them out like candy. So
Right.
they're yeah, but no matter what stage you're in, you can it gets back to the root of the problem, right? And make sure that you're on the right track.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that you all feel the same way after 2 days so far. We'll hopefully that holds true through the end of the week. Yeah, perfect. We can are there any, so we're kind of still in the ideation phase, right? But I know we had a conversation on Teams a couple months ago, and I'm sure we weren't the only organization that you talked with. Are there any we don't need to call anybody out, right? But are there any roadblocks or barriers you hit so far with you know, hey, I want to make a semi-major change to a KC-135 aircraft, and then has anybody shut a door in your face?
So no, luckily or unfortunately, not yet. We haven't gotten to that point yet to find out who that main stakeholder is, who could potentially make that decision, or shut us down, I should say. Right now, we've talked to several parties, or at least I have communicated to several parties just through some planning processes where like I said, where I mentioned earlier, where they're like, well, I want to put these aircraft at this location. Well, unfortunately, we don't have JP8, so that it can't happen, or not as quick as they'd like for it to happen, right? So when we pitched this idea, I'm like, well, this is what we're thinking. This would resolve or solve your problem. They're like, that's a great idea. We should push forward as best as we can. So just talking it throughout the field with some of the stakeholders stakeholders in the room, they seem to have the buy-in. But I think once we get to that avenue or that door where we're asking, hey, can we make this modification, or is it possible to make this modification to this airframe? And they say yes, I think that'll really green light everything and get this going in motion. I'm just more excited to get there and hopefully get the yes, and then we can definitely make a change for the better, versus trying to stockpile equipment and personnel when we're talking about flexibility and adapting and moving rapidly. I think this is the answer to that.
No, Sergeant Lucio pretty much summed it up. Just got to find the right person to hopefully get traction with it.
Roger that. Yeah, that's always the key, right? Is finding the right person to talk to. And hopefully you guys got a little bit closer to that today in some of the brainstorming stakeholder stuff. But it always seems like when you think you're talking to the right person, then they tell you who the right person is, right? And I mean, eventually you get there, but it's usually one or two people down the road. You talked a little bit about how you do work planning within USAFE.
Yes.
And obviously we're on a Zoom call and we're in an on-class environment, but would you be able to talk a little bit about the difficulties of getting fuel within USAFE and how important a system like this could be to a future near peer competition?
No, absolutely. So I don't have the full exact data matrix per se, but just in a nutshell for the USAFE environment, currently we have 6 MOBs, main operating bases that are well known. So we have our supply of JPA at these particular locations. So that limits the tankers landing at these locations to fuel up so they can feed the war fighters. So this idea, and just a quick internet search, and please don't hold me to it. There's over 2,000 commercial air sites, 2,000 commercial sites in Europe. With this additive injection system, it can open 2,000 sites for the KC-135s. So they want to land, let's just say, for example, South Germany today, and then tomorrow in France, they can do that at any commercial airport. Obviously, provided that the runways meet whatever requirements that they need. They can land there, gas up, take back off without missing a beat, and execute whatever mission that is needed for these fighters. So a lot to gain from this. So hopefully we get to see it through the whole way.
Coming out. Sergeant Wilcox, I'm a 2-5 by trade as well. C-17s. I touched this KC-135 for the first time a couple of weeks ago, actually. But from your perspective as a crew chief, is there? And I don't know if have you ever been like a flying crew chief or flown with it? Mission. Okay, copy that. Yeah. So, I mean, have you run into difficulties of getting fuel downrange or anywhere? Or
like Sergeant Lucio says, it's the KC-135 can take the Jet A and be fine. It's the customers, the fighters that have the problem that require the JP-8. So yes, there's technically workarounds for the fighters, but this would just help streamline and make that process quicker to be able to offload and go.
Copy that. Yeah, and I remember what we talked about on a few months back was an aircraft, a tanker will go up and it can only refuel the certain aircraft, right, that it took fuel on for. And if it needs to refuel other aircraft, sometimes you need a different tanker, right, or just a tanker with different fuel. Whereas if you had TAFAS, in theory, you could refuel multiple aircraft that need multiple types of fuel,
right,
in the same flight, right?
Yeah, right, absolutely. So in this particular case, it's just an example. It fills up with Jet A1, which is what we use overseas. KC or C-130 needs gas. It can gas it up easy without the use of the TAFAS. But then let's just say some fighters roll up, say, hey, we need some gas. They push the button, turn the injection system on. Then they satisfy both sets of customers, that the one that require JP-8 and the ones that don't. Again, a lot to gain from this, and I don't, at this particular point, I don't see any downs to it. Only gains. And to kind of just to step on the question there is Sergeant Wilcox. So I have been deployed in other environments, other AORs before, and we had to move fuel via what we call traditionally bladder birds, where you load up bladder systems on these cargo aircraft, so JP8, and we take it forward to other locations where they can't receive fuel. So this I won't say that this will alleviate that, but this will just give us more flexibility to land the tanker aircraft worldwide. And I work in USAFE, but I know for sure the PACAF AOR, maybe SITCOM as well, could benefit from this as well.
Project. Yeah. And, as we all know, flexibility is the key to air power, right? Right now we're a little bit inflexible, right? Like we talked about a little bit with the slight lack of flexibility in where we can land. And also when you consider, ACE as a scheme of maneuver within USAFE, I forget how many airfields did you say that they have it currently?
So 6 months.
Okay, yeah, copy 6 to 2,000, right?
Correct.
I mean, that's what an increase in trying to move aircraft where they can't be targeted, right? Is extremely important. So that's when you talk about upsides, I can only see them as well.
Redundancy, right?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. Awesome. How has the I'll start with Sergeant Wilcox here. How has the journey been so far, from idea to kind of where you're at now, and things looking up?
Yeah, things are looking up. I'm still trying to play a little catch up. I was brought on the team a little late, but I had the opportunity to jump on it. Yeah, I think we're getting a plan together to really find out where we need to go with it.
Copy that.
Yeah, on the 2F side, on the fuel side, it's been good. My leaders have been very receptive to this, and in fact, they encouraged it for us to go ahead and pursue it. Like I said, as leaders, they try to poke some holes, like, well, maybe this isn't beneficial for us, but what the future may hold for us, and how we may be better equipped to prepare for something like that. This would be the desired solution for that. It just gives us so much more flexibility than the 6 bases that we previously identified before. I mean, 6 to 2,000, right?
Yeah.
The math is easy right there.
Yeah, and that's just in one AOR.
And
right?
one AOR, correct?
In one MAGCOM. And so
Absolutely.
yeah, once you add the Pacific and
Correct.
into that, I mean, and CONUS bases, right?
Absolutely.
All of our small regional airfields.
Right.
It's a game changer. Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Mr. Mendes, do you want to talk a little bit about how important it is, one, for spark cell interaction with projects like this, right? And how we can go from, I guess, an idea, kind of like you talked about earlier, right? Where Sergeant Lucio was saying, senior leaders try to poke holes, right? That's because their entire careers, they've been brought ideas maybe that had a lot of holes that were very, very apparent, right? And how, programs like this can maybe help fill those holes.
So one of the main keys, I think, programs like Bring Your Own Adventure and Test Track as a whole, is there's a language difference between the technical people that know what they want and know the specifics of the programs and what the leadership is looking at, which is usually money, manpower, things. And what the program brings to these teams is that availability to think in another language. And so when you're pitching to leadership or pitching to somebody else, instead of not only talking in the advantages, the technical advantages of a program, flexibility, this and that, you talk also in other terms that leadership needs to hear to pass on to their leadership, because in our world there's always somebody above, and now we're talking about return on investment, or maybe numbers of planes that are not needed, they can be assigned elsewhere. So there's a lot of language that you need to add or change to make your communication more effective, because you may have a very good idea, but if you can't pass it through the next person, or the person doesn't understand, it doesn't matter, it falls by the wayside. And these types of programs, what they're really good at, or they're intended to be, is to make you understand that just talking your technical I don't want to say jargon, but your technical language may not be enough for you to make your idea understandable to the people who make decisions. So almost like decision-making language is a language, and then technical language is a different language that may not interact, and you need to make that translation.
Copy that. Yeah, that's extremely important. You know, we almost learn a little bit of that throughout our careers with our annual reports, right? They say if medical can't read a maintenance bullet and understand it, then it's wrong, right? And that's how you compete, right? Is there anything specific? I have a couple more questions, but is there anything specifically that you wanted to talk about while you were here?
For at the Boya?
Yeah, or just you know, on the AMA here.
So, no, I guess more so, we're thankful for giving us the opportunity to get this out there to the community to hear through this session, you know, because a lot of times, you know, if there's perhaps another team that may have already thought about this and has some ideas, some input where, you know, we might be missing, and we might see, like, so we just brought Sergeant Wilcox on fairly recently. So on the maintenance side of the house, they may not be too familiar with it, but you know, just if you're out there listening and it's like, hey, you know, I'm on board with this and this is how I see it could work out, you know, let us know. And we'd love to hear those ideas. No idea is a bad idea for what we're working on. Because we've probably, amongst Sergeant Wilcox and myself, we probably already talked about it a little bit today. So, but yeah, no, thanks for the opportunity to let us get the word out there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we're happy to have you here. It's always an exciting time to bring everyone out, right? All the semifinalists for Aether Sprint, and just meet everyone face to face, right?
Absolutely.
That's it's nice. It's nice, a lot nicer than Teams calls all the time.
Yeah.
But for you know, I'm a 2 Alpha 5 by trade, and my experience with fuel is you know, the SPR, right? And
Right.
and hooking it up while we load cargo on the road and things like that. And ramp loads, you know, 110K on a C-17 to get it ready to go. But I'm sure, and I've learned a little bit since I've been on the Tesseract team here, that there is a lot more to fuel.
Oh, absolutely.
And fuel operations in the Air Force. Could you just talk about, you know, throughout your career, or just kind of what does fuels look like kind of in the Air Force, and you know, how is it different from just me hooking up an SPR and filling a jet?
No, absolutely. Well, first off, I'll start with one of our models is without fuel, pilots are pedestrians. You know, you need fuel to move. So yeah, no, absolutely. So fuel is very important. I'm sure, as everybody knows, if there's any piece of equipment or any airframe that everybody touches, there's a need for fuel. And currently, that demand for fuel is just, it seems like it's blown up out of nowhere. You know, units need to come in and do their training exercises and in non-traditional training at you know, not your traditional sites. So the need has definitely increased at some of these sites where we maybe 5 years ago never thought we would be at, to where, you know, fighters are actually landing now, conducting operations, which drives the requirement for us, well, and USAFE for the USAFE command for us to fulfill those requirements. So it's definitely getting a lot of attention. Fuel additization is what we've been looking at the most, because, like as mentioned, the Jet A1 is what's available in Europe, not necessarily JP8. So I know there's a lot of other teams working different action items out there for their particular problem set, and I think this one in particular will help alleviate some of those requirements for them. But yeah, you know, liquid money is flowing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, Sergeant Wilcox, how, I don't want to keep going back to fuel, even though the project's related to fuel, right? But how important was or could you just talk a little bit about how important the KC-135 mission is in general, and kind of what they do?
Yeah, the Milton Hall has the sole refuelers of USAFE. They support anywhere between, you know, Air Force jets, and even Europe jets. We just extend the reach to get people places. So Without them, it's a stop and go. With this, it's continuous.
After that, yeah, and extending sortie timelines, is important to maintaining an advantage, right? Keeping aircraft in the air as long as they can feasibly, right? Pilots eventually have to come down in the future when there aren't many pilots. Maybe the aircraft stay up a lot longer, right? Tankers are going to be even more important. So, yeah, it's definitely an important capability. We have a few minutes left, but I would like to talk about, I guess, just your experience. We can just finish off with the three of you. Your experience with, innovation in general, and how important innovation is, and finding problems and solving problems, to keeping the advantage and getting the Air Force ready and the A4 ready for the a future, hopefully not, but near peer competition. Right.
Well, I mean, the game is always changing. Innovation will be the key to success in the future. We always face different problems. Even though we've been doing the same mission for, I don't even know how long, but yeah, sustainment of our security. So
Yeah, I think innovation needs to be looked at as a culture, not just a buzzword or anything like that. It has to be a culture of people actively looking on how to improve their processes, either making it cheaper, faster, easier, taking them out altogether, bring new processes up. Innovation is how we keep up with ever growing and ever faster adversaries. And there's a lot of ingenuity in our ranks that needs to be tapped. And usually we spend a lot of money with big corporations to solve problems, and they're very slow, very expensive. Whereas there's people in our ranks already being paid for that have the solutions already to the problems. And the innovation space or ecosystem taps that brain power and just makes it, brings it forward, makes it faster. It's an invaluable tool.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, no, so I agree. I think innovation is needed. And, from the simplest thing where I guess we have this mindset, and we kind of touched on it earlier, where we do things because this is just how we've done them for a long time, and it makes it simple. And I like to joke around that, sometimes when you talk to people that have been in a little bit longer or have separated from the military career and they're staying in, they're like, well, we've done it like this for the past so many years and it's worked out fine. While it has worked out fine, we still have to find solutions that are able to get us to locations or able to prep us faster, to meet the demand or to meet any requirement or any calling that may be out there that may need us. As I talked earlier, we currently do have additive injection systems, but it takes time to move them. They're big, resource intensive. It takes a lot of money to move them as quick as people want them. So how do we solve that? Well, this is our way to reduce that cost and get the fighters. And this is just, I've been in, 18 years and when we pitch it to some people are like, well, why haven't we thought about that before? And maybe somebody has some history if it has been done before, but we're going to redo it again and hopefully get it to the finish line. Maybe during something was preventing it from happening, but innovation has to happen. This is our contribution to this particular problem set. And for any listeners out there, please, if you have any ideas, do not hesitate to voice them, get them out there. Because you might be solving the problem that we don't know we have.
Awesome. Well, Sergeant Lucio, Sergeant Wilcox, and Mr. Mendes, we appreciate your time. Thanks for all of the insight. And like we talked about a little bit, audience, if there's any further questions that you have, or if you have ideas on how you can help, don't hesitate to reach out. And we can, if you don't have their contact information, we'll make sure you get it if you jump on the Tesseract website and reach out that way. All right. Perfect.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.